Hello everyone, and welcome to our first PowerPoint presentation for this semester. In this particular chapter, actually it's chapters 1 and 2 of your textbook, we're going to look at how social media has really transformed the public relations, advertising, and marketing areas. It's really redefined how the game is played. It redefines areas like customer service, how employees communicate with each other within organizations, how projects get managed, fundraising efforts, event planning, basic brand building, you name it. The way we practice the profession has changed in so many ways because of social media. So we're going to start by looking at a few successful examples and some that you may be familiar with. The first is, of course, the Old Spice campaign. I'm going to see if I can get this video to play. Many of you have seen this, some of you may not. But there's Will It Blend. Here's the Old Spice. Here we go.
Hello, ladies. Look at your man. Now back to me. Now back at your man. Now back to me. Sadly, he isn't me. But if he stopped using lady-scented body wash and switched to Old Spice, he could smell like he's me. Look down. Back up. Where are you? You're on a boat with the man your man could smell. What's in your hand? Back at me. I have it. It's an oyster with 2 tickets to that thing you love. Look again. The tickets are now diamond. Anything is possible when your man smells like Old Spice and not a lady. I'm on a horse.
So, incredibly humorous, incredibly successful campaign. And it was named as the best overall social media campaign of 2010 by lots of critics. It really got shared in a viral way that nothing really had up until that point. What did we learn from that particular example? Lots of things. First of all, creativity is key. You have to really think in a different way about how to reach people and how to engage people. The same old messaging techniques just don't work anymore. But don't underestimate humor as a creative and powerful way to reach people. That video reached 40 million people within a week and garnered 1.4 billion total impressions, and that's actually an old number, so probably much higher than that now. But the key of all of this is not that it was funny and that it got shared a lot and that it was really, engaging. It actually impacted Old Spice sales. They went up by 107%. Old Spice had really been struggling because it was a kind of an old-fashioned brand. So they really needed to revitalize it to survive. And boy, did they ever. This particular campaign really spoke to people in a frank, funny way. And it used all the new media at their disposal to really narrowly tailor and personalize the campaign. This pitchman actually went on to do several different YouTube videos that personally addressed people. And so it was a really, at that time, unique and engaging way to get to an audience, but also to dramatically impact sales. And that's what it's all about. Another interesting campaign I wanted to highlight for you in this particular lecture, this was called the Blendtec campaign. It's a blender that they wanted to show just how powerful this blender was. And it first burst onto the scene in 2006. And the videos show the blender destroying anything from a baseball to an iPhone. And I'll tell you the results of this one after we watch one of the Blendtec videos.
Will it blend? That is the question. Yesterday, I was playing Halo 3 with my 4- and 5-year-old grandchildren, and they beat me. Every single time they beat me. So, Poppy giveth, and Poppy taketh away, and Poppy blendeth. I think I'm going to press the Master Chief button. Flood smoke. Don't breathe this. That's the way to beat Halo 3.
So as you can see, they're not incredibly expensive commercials to produce. They're not, anything extraordinary, except they show how well that product works. The pitch man is kind of cheesy, but that just makes it sort of more authentic and human. But that series of videos showing them blending all kinds of things actually resulted in home sales of blenders increasing by over 700%. So those kinds of results are hard to ignore. And that's why social media is definitely seen as a powerful tool in the PR, advertising, and marketing arsenal. Now, just a little bit about your main course textbook author, David Meerman Scott. A little bit that you need to know about him. This is what he says in his introduction of himself. At the height of the dot-com boom, I was vice president of marketing at NewsEdge Corporation. My multi-million-dollar marketing budget included tens of thousands of dollars per month for PR agency, hundreds of thousands per year for print advertising and glossy collateral materials, and expensive participation at a dozen trade shows a year. These efforts made us feel good because we were doing something, but the programs were not producing significant, measurable results. So he said, all right, what can we do to turn this around? Now, he talks a lot about the old way and the new way to do things. And let me just say here that there is still room for the old techniques. There's lots of validity to the old techniques. What we have to figure out is how do we incorporate social media? How do we do this in a smarter, more strategic way? Before the web, the only way you could really get your organization noticed was to buy advertising of some kind or convince a journalist to write about you. So telling your organization's story today, much easier. You can reach a potential audience in the millions without having to buy a lot of expensive advertising or get that much media coverage. So here's the problem. There's still lots of people out there who are applying the old rules of advertising, PR, and media relations to the new medium of the web, and they fail miserably. I mean, there's different ways to write things. So press releases, for example, they are not written in the way that you would send one via email to a journalist. Social media press releases are written completely differently. So if you don't recognize that there are differences there in the writing style and the strategy and the messaging, then you're really not going to be successful at this. So let me just give you a caveat regarding the book. When it uses the words company or organization, it also means anything from a nonprofit to a government agency, a political candidate, a church, a school, a sports team. So just know that company and organization is used interchangeably for any organization or thing or event you might be trying to promote. When he uses the word buyers, he may just as well mean subscribers, voters, volunteers, applicants, and donors. The new rules will apply to all of those groups. So please know all of these principles that you will learn are very transferable. So to kind of give you an example of how the old rules worked and why they don't work today, Mr. Scott uses the illustration of buying a car to illustrate what's wrong with PR and marketing today. So he was in the market for a new car, and he started his research by going to the big three automaker websites. And on all three, he says he got assaulted on the homepage with a barrage of TV-style broadcast advertising. And all these one-way messages appeared, which focused on price, model year clearance, 0% financing. All these sites assumed that he was ready to buy a car right then. But he actually just wanted to learn something. He looked for some personality on the sites and found none. The automakers portrayed themselves as these sort of nameless, faceless corporations without real people being involved. The sites were really advertising to him, but not doing anything to build a relationship with him. Automakers, he said, have become addicted to the crack cocaine of marketing, big budget TV commercials, and other offline marketing. Now, the place he ended up getting really authentic content and where he got educated about cars and interacted with humans weren't the automakers, but sites like Edmunds Cool Car Space. It's a consumer-driven social networking and personal page site with things like photo albums, user groups that are based on make and model of car, favorite links, and this is where he made his decisions, far removed from the big automaker sites. Again, Mr. Scott doesn't mean to suggest, and I don't mean to suggest, that by new rules that we should throw the old ones out. There's still room for traditional techniques, but you also need to factor in how the consumer is making decisions today. A lot of people turn to the web to solve their problems. If your organization isn't present, isn't engaged in the places and at the times when your buyers are, then you're really losing out, no matter how great your offline marketing program might be. So you have to ask yourself this question: how are my existing advertising and media relations programs working? So here are the old rules that we have relied upon with pretty good success up until the advent of social media. Marketing basically meant advertising and branding your product. It needed to appeal to the masses. We had to speak to a lot of people, so the message was very broad. It relied on interrupting people to get them to pay attention to a message. Think about your car dealerships and the TV advertising where they used to yell at you through the TV screen. It was typically a one-way communication from the company to the consumer. Ads were about selling products and not much more than that. And they were based on campaigns that had kind of a limited lifespan. Creativity was sometimes deemed one of the most important components because you had a lot of ad agencies who really wanted to rack up awards and become known for their ads rather than really trying to sell product for their clients. And advertising and PR were very siloed. They were very separate disciplines run by different people, different departments, and they had very different goals. So you can kind of see some of the problems there. What about public relations? Well, Mr. Scott, for example, gets hundreds of emailed press releases per month from public relations people who want him to write about their organization. And he says in the 5 years that he's gotten those, he's never used a single one of them to write a story. 25,000 press releases sent to him, resulting in 0 stories. Journalists confirm the same story. Instead, what Scott does is he thinks about a subject he'd like to cover, and he looks for more information from blogs and search engines. Then he might try out a story idea on his blog and see if it gets a reaction. If he gets comments or emails, then he knows he needs to explore that one further as a story. The other interesting thing about PR is that in 5 years, only a tiny number of PR people have actually commented on Mr. Scott's blog or reached out to him as a result of a blog post or a story he wrote in a magazine. How hard is it to actually read the blogs of the reporters that you're trying to pitch? It teaches you exactly what interests them, and then you can email them with something interesting that they're likely to write about rather than spamming them with unsolicited press releases. Scott says, when I don't want to be bothered, I get hundreds of press releases a week. But when I do want feedback and conversation, I get silence. Something's very wrong in PR land. So again, big-time media coverage still has its place. If you are a rock and roll band and you get a positive story in Rolling Stone, that can propel you to fame. If you have a company that's kind of up and coming and you get an article in the Wall Street Journal that validates you are indeed a player, again, that's great. Those are the kinds of outlets that can be vital aspects of a public relations program. But there are also easier and more efficient ways to reach your buyer if you can't get that big time coverage. And if you do a good job of telling your story directly, the media will find out and then they will write about you. They won't have a choice. The internet has made PR public again, and after years of almost exclusive focus on the media, you can now do things like blogs, online video, and other forms of content that let organizations communicate directly with their buyers. Now here are the old rules of PR. The only way to get ink and airtime was through media coverage. And companies had to communicate with journalists and pitch their stories with these press releases. And nobody actually saw those except for a handful of reporters and editors unless they decided to write a story about it. Companies really had to have something significant to report if they expected journalists to actually write about that. Jargon was okay because journalists pretty much understood it. You always had to have third-party quotes, and effectiveness of your press release effort was usually measured via clipbooks. So you would keep track of where you appeared in the newspaper or on television and made a record of that. And at the end of the year, you would hand that to your boss and say, look at all the coverage I got. But it didn't really tell you if what you did actually sold any products. And again, we had this silo thing going on with public relations and marketing being very separate departments run by different people who had different goals and different strategies. So again, you can see already some of the issues that we have. Now, there are going to be exceptions to the need to rethink old PR. Very large companies, very famous people, and governments might still be able to get away with using the traditional media exclusively, but even that is a little doubtful. They may be big enough and their news very compelling that they don't need a lot of effort to get coverage. If you're J.K. Rowling and you issued a press release about a new Harry Potter book, you're not going to have to work hard to get that news picked up by a news station. If the new Apple computer CEO announces a new iPhone at a trade show, you better believe that news is going to be picked up without a whole lot of effort on the CEO's part. But if you're smaller and less famous, but you have an interesting story to tell, you need to tell it yourself. And fortunately, the web is a great place to do that. One example of one of these smaller companies who has used this so successfully is Cervelo Cycles. The head of this company, Gerard Vroman, will tell you that he's really an engineer. He's not much of a marketer. His company is obsessed with the buyers of his competition bicycles and with the engineering-driven product that he offers them. He's focused his company to help his customers really win races. He also excels at using the web to tell cycling enthusiasts really compelling stories. He educates them. He engages them in conversation. He entertains them. His website works really well because it includes perfect content for visitors who are ready to buy a bike right then, but also for people who are just browsing. The content is valuable and authentic compared to marketing messages on so many other sites. People can sign up for an email newsletter, download audio like interviews with professional writers, check out the company blog, and browse news and photos. There was a customer named Ryan who is an amateur triathlon competitor. And he said, what I really like about this website is how it gives off the aura of legitimacy, being based on fact, not fluff. Vroman writes all of the content himself, but he wouldn't call it a fancy site. He gets negative feedback on the site from web designers. But the customers love it. The learning here is that you can be really small and occupy a niche and still sell your products all over the world. He has really learned the lesson of how to do this and what kind of content resonates with his consumers. And it's usually not price. Now, Amazon.com is great because it has been optimized for browsing. At a broad level, there are just two ways people interact with web content. They search and they browse. Most organizations will optimize their websites for searching, which helps people answer their questions, but doesn't really encourage them to browse. But people also want a site to tell them something they didn't think to ask. The marketers at Amazon understand that. And when people browse the site, they may have a general idea of what they want, but not a particular title. So if you start a search for a book, say, Surfing for Beginners, you might get 99 results. With this list as the starting point, then you shift into browse mode. Each title has a customer ranking. You can see user-generated reviews together with reviews from other media. You can see customers who bought this also bought this, and rankings of what do customers ultimately buy after viewing items like this. After you find the perfect book and purchase it, Then you might get an email from Amazon weeks later suggesting, based on that purchase, another book that you might find useful. So the site is designed to work for a major and often ignored audience, people who do their own research and consider a decision over a period of time before they make a commitment. The most effective web strategies are going to anticipate those needs and provide content to meet them, even before people know to ask. Marketing on the web is not about generic banner ads designed to trick people with neon color and wacky movements. It's about understanding keywords and phrases that buyers are using and then deploying micro campaigns to drive buyers to pages full of the content that they're seeking. So here they are, the new rules of marketing and PR. Here's what we know today. Marketing is way more than just advertising. It's for more than a mainstream media audience. You are what you publish. Your messaging is incredibly important. People want authenticity and genuineness. They don't want spin or fluff. They want participation and engagement, not propaganda. So instead of one-way interruption, deliver the content the moment I need it. You want to shift from the masses to vast numbers of underserved, niche audiences. It's not about your boss seeing the company on television. It's about your buyers seeing your company on the web. You want to care more about winning business than awards, and make public relations public again. Drive people to purchasing with great online content, and that means direct communication. And thank goodness, the lines between marketing, advertising, and PR are blurred. So, knowing all this, social media can't be your sole strategy. You have to integrate social media into your traditional marketing and organizational strategy. So I'm not going to teach you how to use specific tools or platforms in this class. This is not how to use Facebook 101 or why you need a LinkedIn profile. I'm going to teach you how to develop sound strategy. You also have to start with clear objectives. So many times I've heard students say, we need to develop a Facebook page because everyone's on Facebook. Really? You need to be asking this question instead. What social media do I need to move people through the funnel from awareness to purchase to adoption? While practically every brand is on Facebook and Twitter, there are many other social media platforms. Instagram, Snapchat, there's a new one every day. Brands typically don't have the resources to be on every social media platform. So how do you prioritize? You need to choose the social media platforms that fit your organization's target audience and brand positioning. For instance, Facebook and Twitter tend to reach a broad demographic, while Instagram and Snapchat have a younger user base. When social media is integrated with the company's PR and advertising strategy, the company's management of its customer and brand assets is seamless, and that's what you want. So in an offline world, many times marketing and PR are separate departments with different people and different skill sets. But that's not the case on the web. There's not much difference in what companies are doing online when it comes to reaching customers. Great content in all forms helps buyers see that you and your organization get it. Content drives action. So in this class, we'll be examining some of the principles and practices that make social media campaigns and tactics so successful. How to develop and implement them using our text, your case studies, and your hands-on experiences with real clients. Are you ready?